But before we transition into it, I just wanted to mention kintsugi. I don't know if any of you have come across this, but it's the Japanese practice of taking broken things and making them whole again. I've got a little picture here. So as you can tell, that was broken. And the key is that they use gold lacquer to glue it, to pull it back together. And the reason I mention it is that the weakness becomes the strength and the source of beauty. And I wonder what that might mean in your life in things which are broken or you're not wanting to bring forward. Actually, maybe they can become points of beauty that others can see, resonate with, and we can learn from each other. And it brings us to this panel because this is the Potpourri Mix panel. I asked on LinkedIn, who should we have as speakers? And we had these amazing people nominated. And so we're just going to be going and learning a little bit about their journeys, a little bit about their stories, how they're fitting in this space of impact and what they're doing. I'd like to start with you first, Janine Branje. And we got to know each other a while ago now. I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about your story, a little bit about the charitable trust that you've set up. And I do know quite a bit about this one because I wrote the trust deed. But I would really be interested in hearing about the innovation which you're seeking and why this is important for us to be turning our minds to. So I'll hand it over to you, Janine.
Hi everyone, my name is Janine Branje. I, by day, am a general manager for a rather busy sealing company in Christchurch. Outside of work, I have recently been involved with Stephen's help of establishing a charitable trust called the Emily Branje Trust. This trust came about simply because I lost my daughter almost 7 years ago. She was 9 years old, and she tragically lost her life after being swept out to sea in Hokitika. It took 2 days for us to have her back and be able to start a grieving process. Fast forward another 3 or 4 months from there, and I started talking to various people. Somebody had been really, really kind and set up a Give a Little trust, Give a Little fund. There was a little bit of money raised from that, and I wanted to do something and give back. Um, the outcome of all of that 6.5 years later was the establishment of this trust. But in the meantime, behind the scenes, there's been a lot of collaboration between Emily, my late daughter, her dad and myself, and a number of people from various New Zealand agencies, being SARS, New Zealand Surf, Maritime, the police. And ultimately, we have come up with a device that is, we call it EB1 and EB2. It's a drifter. And it has been used in real life situations. We have a plan put together where we're wanting to, raise some money to be able to keep testing, keep developing. And there is a genuine interest and a genuine case in New Zealand for the use of these. There is nothing like this in the world. I'm really, really keen to keep moving forward and keep breaking ground in this space. I do see that, lots of communities, there are loved ones that are lost all the time at sea or in rivers. Equally, there are, people missing on fishing boats and things like that, boats rolling over bars. There's just so much opportunity to help search teams and ultimately make sure that people don't go through, the loss like I've gone through. Yeah, it's just
Thank
a
you
little
so
bit about
much.
my story. And I only discovered the other day that you actually live just around the corner from where we were. So it's
We
funny
had,
how life brings you full circle.
that's right. Well, one of the things at the end of the session, I'm going to be talking about how we are all interwoven and we need to recognize that. We need to support each other because this thread here is connected there as well. Janine, thank you so much for sharing. I know it's difficult, and I just admire you for being willing to set this up. And if people are interested in supporting, maybe we can put you in contact with them, either contact you directly or they can contact me and I can and put you forward. Because the trust now has charitable status and you're
It
looking to
does.
get it operational. And so you'll be, yeah, raising the profile from now on. Is that right?
100%. So there is a board of three, and we are looking, to add a couple more board members as well.
Mhm.
And so it's now it's ready to go boom, and there is, be great to drive some more interest in it and keep it moving forward.
Great. All right. Well, there's the call, everyone. If you're interested in supporting in some way, then Janine would love to hear from you. Thank you for sharing about this initiative, and we definitely have to set up a Seeds podcast interview because I know
A hundred percent.
it'll be fascinating. We just haven't quite arranged that yet.
I,
So
I
thank
just
you.
appreciate the opportunity, and yeah, obviously some kind person out there decided to nominate me, so I'm grateful to have this chance.
Yeah, no, it's great. When I saw your name, I was like, that's absolutely, it's going to be great. Really good to have your story. We're going to move to somebody else's story now. Anna Guenther's on the call. Thank you. I saw you join like more than two ago panels, so thank you for being here. Anna, we met each other a while ago now. I remember having lunch in the Park Ranger Cafe in Riccarton in Christchurch. I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about crowdfunding and, in particular, Pledge Me, and what kind of impact-led businesses that you've seen come through, and what opportunities does it open up for people? So, yeah, really curious for people to connect. Some people on the call might have a passion and they need to raise some money. What are some options that they may not have considered? Over to you.
Kia ora, Stephen, and Janine, just thank you for sharing your story. I almost cried, but yeah, how powerful what you're doing for Emily. So, crowdfunding is the idea that you can go out to your crowd for funding. You set a goal of how much money you want to raise, a deadline in which you want to raise it by, and you offer something in return, at least in the way that we do crowdfunding. So, on Pledge Me, there's sort of two types of crowdfunding. There's rewards based, where you often offer the thing that you're making, or you crowdsource stuff from your friends, or you offer experiences. And then there's equity based crowdfunding, where you offer shares in your company, which means you do need to be set up as a company for that one. And you're raising funds to grow your business. So typically, you've been going for a little while, you have some clear growth plans, and you raise investment from your community to fund that. An example there of success down Stephen's way is Atique. So Brienne West wanted to rid the world of plastic bottles. She'd been going for a year or two. She just moved from her home kitchen into her first factory. She decided to raise investment. She went out and raised $200,000 in 2 weeks. And when she sold her company 6 years later, those investors got a 48 times return on their investment because they bought in when it was really small and really early stage. And anyone here who knows Brienne knows that she's a powerhouse. So she just went gangbusters. She wanted to stop 1 million bottles from going to landfill by 2020. She actually stopped 6 million. And then she sold the business, and now she's doing new amazing things. But we work with founders at all stages, and we specifically focus on regional founders, female founders, Māori-led Pākehī. The goal is to really serve those founders that are being left out at the moment from other traditional finance methods. Currently, 50% of the campaigns that come through Pledge Me have a woman founder. And when some of you might know, only 2% of venture capital goes to companies with female leaders. So it's actually really making a difference, people going out to their communities and raising. And we have a lot of our alumni here on the call, and actually someone who's currently raising. So if anyone wants to fund a social enterprise in the sort of reuse, rewear space, Kirsty is raising for a Gannery at the moment. Yeah, I'm sorry, Stephen. There was a lot of points to your question. What do I?
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. And actually, maybe when the next person speaks, you can put a link to any things that are on. It's great. Lani's going to be on a session in a few minutes, and so she's saying, "Hi, Anna," and she
Yeah.
says, "I've raised funds on Pledge Me 7 times, both projects and equity. So good." So
You have it here, yes.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm really glad that you're here because sometimes I meet founders and they're like, "But I can't raise any money. But it's about building, as I think you said, building a tribe or building a group of people. You don't actually need that many people, but if they support you,
Yeah.
you can get
And
on the
as
way."
Cheryl said, like, just start with some messy action, be human. Actually, people want to connect to you. And if you go out with a really clear ask and you're positive and you've got a, you know, it's amazing what can come from that.
Yeah. Is there any, thinking back, because you've been doing this a while now, is there any that stick out as campaigns that ran that you're like, wow, that's really amazing?
Gosh,
Probably
well,
too many.
just announced today that we hit $80 million through the platform. That's 1,800 successful campaigns. So there's been heaps. But oh gosh, so many amazing ones. There's actually one at the moment that almost didn't launch because I told her, I was like, oh, your goal is way too big. Like, I don't know if you're going to be able to raise, she wanted to raise $650,000 for a rewards-based campaign. And I was like, that's like double our biggest campaign. But she's doing a member buying group for power. So they want to get wholesale power. And she's already raised $100,000 more than our biggest ever rewards-based campaign. So 400K. And so she's, yeah, a current one that's just, I'm glad she didn't listen to me.
I love that. Well, there's a lot of people on this call. Now they'll have another avenue to consider and pursue. And remember, the point of this conference is to learn about new things that you may not have known about before, and then think, how might this apply in my context?
And if anyone needs any help, Anna@pledgeme.co.nz. I'll put my email in the chat. Always up for phone calls or video calls or coffees. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining, and thank you for all the work that you do. Behind the scenes, I've seen you involved in unconferences over here and gatherings there and spreadsheets here. So,
Lots of
um,
spreadsheets.
yeah, lots of spreadsheets, but a chance to say thank you. Really appreciate what you do. We're going to keep things moving, though. There's still three people on this panel. The next one we will talk with is Cheryl Spain from the Gift Trust. Cheryl, you do something that's different to what we just talked about. Can you tell us about the Gift Trust and what it's doing that's innovative?
Kia ora koutou, ko Cheryl Spain talking. Thanks, Stephen. And wow, what inspiring, amazing stories in this potpourri. So thanks for having me on. Hard act to follow with Janine's story and Anna too. But I think ours relates a little bit to some of what they and also what Shamabeel was talking about. So yes, I'm the Executive Director of the Gift Trust, and I come from the philanthropy sector. But essentially, the Gift Trust is one organisation that runs two quite different services for two quite different groups. But at the heart of it, we're about creating a community of generosity, which I think relates to what the other two were just talking about. We are all about taking away the burden and the administration of either giving or receiving funding and making it more connected, more community-based, and more joyful, which is what we're here for. And so we have, whether our clients are philanthropic donors, which they are on the one hand, or grassroots community groups, which they are through our fiscal hosting service, we really want them to feel part of a community. And really importantly, I think this is the bit that perhaps relates to what Shamabeel was talking about in some ways. We want them to be able to test ideas, to take risks, to try and solve some of these wicked problems, that we're facing with new ways of doing things. And we don't want the infrastructure or the charity framework to hold them back. So we provide a kind of charity framework for them to sit under and all the guardrails and the financial back end so that they can just get out there and do the hard mahi that they're doing. So in essence, there's two different aspects to our service. On the Gift Trust side, we work with philanthropic donors. They might be families, individuals, and they want a dedicated fund or a giving vehicle that will allow them to do their charitable giving. And we also provide them quite a lot of advice and guidance, and then we connect them to the causes that are doing good and that they want to support. And then on the Gift Collective side, which is the other service, this is what's called a fund holding or a fiscal sponsorship service, which some people may not be aware of. But essentially, it's for grassroots or unregistered charitable groups who want to sit under a registered charities umbrella while they get up and running. I like to describe it as it's a bit like a startup incubator for charities in some ways. We receive and hold all the funding on their behalf. They can do crowdfunding also in quite a different way to what wonderful Pledge Me does. But we provide different things. We do all their financial accounting. We do all their financial reporting, all their back-end compliance, and we pay out all their expenses. So essentially, we're their whole financial back office, and they can just get on with their mahi, like I say, without worrying about the financial admin. And we do all the charitable compliance as well. So that's the sort of innovative part of our work. And I think what it's doing is it's allowing quite a lot of community groups now. We're seeing this. We have 160 groups under our umbrella, so it's sizable. We've raised they've raised over $7 million through the platform so far. And I think it's allowing community groups to do different things because it's freeing up their time. You know, they have a great idea, they want to get started, but the whole charity setup process, you'll know, Stephen, as a lawyer, takes time. And it's great for some organisations. This is by no means, right for everyone, but for some organisations, particularly those grassroots or volunteer-led ones, or those who are starting out, this is a really good service that just allows them to get started, test an idea, and then perhaps when they're big enough, they might set up their own charity and go out on their own. So that's the fund holding and fiscal sponsorship side of things in a nutshell.
That's great. Thank you. It's such a good explanation. And I was really pleased when you were one of the speakers here in our potpourri mix of different topics, because I think you bring a really interesting dimension to what people may not even know exists. So in the chat, we're going to, or maybe you can as well, put any links so that people can click and find out more, because there might be some interest there. And I think from my perspective, because I help a lot of, in the last year, our team has helped set up about 30 or 40 charities. So we do this all the time. But there are sometimes when it's not yet appropriate or not yet right, or just testing things out a little bit, like what Shamobile was saying, just get out and get your hands dirty a little bit. So, and that's where I think it can be a really good vehicle to come under your umbrella. And then at some point, it might be right that you do need your own legal entity, your own identity, and employing staff and other, it gets complicated, but it's a really good option for people to know about. So thank you for joining today.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to keep things moving. And next up, Paul is here, Paul Brown. He's from BoardWorks. Paul, I have talked with you many times about governance, because that's one of the hats I wear. I do a lot of facilitating for the IOD about governance, the Institute of Directors. And I'm just curious if you could tell us a little bit about BoardWorks and tell me about governance. Why does it matter and how can it be improved? Because I think this is one of those things which sits under the surface. We might not see it, but it's really, really vital and important. Over to you.
Yeah, Kieran, thanks for this too, and congratulations for you assembling such a powerful bunch of people. I'm not sure who's more powerful, the presenters or the people in the chat, because it's quite amazing seeing all the love going out, and I could count all those heart emojis. It's really incredible. Governance, look, we don't bore people to death after hearing all these great stories, but it really does start with clarity of purpose and knowing the what the organisation's trying to achieve. And you'll be aware I wear other hats in the charitable space. So this is a real, very important sector for BoardWorks and for the country. And I guess what's encouraging me when we work with these boards, and it was interesting in Shamobile being a little bit hesitant, saying he's seeing us as humanity make a lot of bad decisions at the moment, but he came right round at the end. He did share optimism, and that for me is important in governance. Being optimistic, not naive, but being optimistic, being curious, and being courageous. And a lot of boards that we're working with in this space, we're pushing them towards collaboration. And it's not easy. Collaboration is talked about, but to get it to work is really difficult. So I guess from a governance perspective, Stephen, we're looking at boards and encouraging them to think laterally. And one of the questions I'm putting to lots of boards is, who's the next stranger they're going to bring into their boardroom? Because I think in boards, we all tend to just think about our own entity and our heads go down and we focus just on that one organisation and our one mission, without realising there's so many other organisations and great people, like you're seeing in the chat, which is great. It's encouraging. Bring those outsiders into your boardroom. You'd probably find out they're actually working on the same problem, and there's probably a mutual solution you could both come up with. So that's one thing I'm keen to encourage boards to keep doing, thinking laterally. We're also working with a lot of boards who at the moment are sort of consumed by the noise out there. Straits of Hormuz, cost of living, election coming up, that can cause the eye line to drop. So we're encouraging boards, and it picks up on that thing that's come through a lot this afternoon about Mokopuna and trying to think about intergenerational change. So a question, if you're on a board, at your next board meeting is, what are we going to look like 15 years from now? And the reason why I picked the number 15 is if it's a good board, you've got a fixed tenure of 3 times, maybe 3 years. So it's maybe 9 years max. So by asking the question, what does it look like 15 years from now? Or you said 100 years from now, it takes the egos out of the room. So it forces you to think, okay, what does this board look like? What does this organization look like when I'm not here? So you'll find a lot of folks are very driven and passionate about their time on the board. How do we remove that sort of passion to go further? So yeah, and just some questions to keep asking. This is a difficult space working in for purpose. There's never enough money. There always seems to be a growing need. And I was up in the UK last week, and one of the phrases I latched onto is, when we're trying to solve these wicked problems, it's easy to be in a real deficit mentality. And someone said to me, you'll find the answer. It's in the forest. It's in the same forest where the magic money tree grows. And I think if we can think about, let's just not imagine those magic money trees. What can we do here and now? How do we work with others? No one's forcing you to do your mission. You've chosen to do that. So we need to be a little bit less righteous and less pithy and think about, okay, how do we work alongside others? How do we drive collaboration? How do we drive greater impact? So that to me is some of the challenges facing governance in the space, Stephen.
Mm. That's excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think for me, and it's going to come up a little bit later, we have a panel looking at charities and innovation. And one of the themes there, I think, is going to be purpose being the beating heart of the organization. But are we clear about our purposes? And do we need to actually go back and revisit things? And is governance clear on where we're headed? Because if they're not clear, the organization is not going to succeed, right?
Absolutely. And I know in previous writings and essays that you've written, Stephen, one of the questions boards should ask is, if we disappeared tomorrow, what would happen? And so we tend to think we're absolutely essential in the work we do, and that's not taking anything away from the great impact that people achieve and enable. But it does force that question forces you to think a little bit more holistically and a little bit be true to purpose, which is what you're referring to.
Yeah. Yeah, and just a reminder for those who are charities on the call, there is now a change in the Charities Act, which means you're meant to review your rules and procedures every 3 years. So there's actually an incentive to do that from a legal perspective. So thank you so much. In the chat, put some links to things because you do a lot of writing and you're active in this area. I'm sure people who are on the call would love to learn a bit more about BoardWorks and what you do. And essentially, you can come in and help boards who are struggling as well. You can offer reviews and you can give perspectives and write reports. So keep up the good work there. Thank you.
Keep up.
All right. The final person in this panel is Simone Woodland, who's actually a former Seeds podcast guest. So if you want to hear her full hour-long version of the story, you can go and listen there. Simone, I'd love to hear a little bit about Circle Living. This is one I actually know quite a lot about because I remember talking to you as part of the Edmund Hillary Fellowship. I think we met and have been involved in aspects of it. And I just love what you're creating. Can you tell us about Circle Living, but also I'd love to hear a bit about the community aspects of the places that you're building.
Awesome, thank you. Kia ora koutou, ko Simone Takiwingoa. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this awesome event, Stephen. I'm originally from the UK with a background in architecture and urban design and planning. I moved to Aotearoa through the Edmund Hillary Fellowship, and that's where I met Stephen through that awesome group of people. And I moved here to build a new model for housing. I founded a 34-home co-housing development in Golden Bay, and I have been living here for 3 years, so I know firsthand how great it is to live in a community of connected people where people look out for you and support you. So yeah, as Stephen said, I'm a co-founder of Circle Living. It's a people-first property development company on a mission to create more resilient communities across the country. We actually raised money through the crowdfunding campaign with Pledge Me last year. Thank you, Anna. And what we're doing is building a new story for housing. So we believe one of the greatest challenges facing society is not just the housing crisis, it is a crisis of connection. We've heard it today across Aotearoa, people are increasingly isolated. We're seeing a rise of loneliness, mental health challenges, aging populations, housing security, and communities that are designed around privacy and separation rather than belonging. At Circle, we see housing as preventative social infrastructure. We design neighborhoods that actively strengthen connection, resilience, intergenerational relationships, and collective well-being. We're not simply building homes, we build a new model for housing that is creating the conditions, I guess, for belonging. Circle Living develops intergenerational co-housing neighborhoods designed to help people know their neighbors, share resources, support one another, and genuinely feel part of something larger than themselves. Our projects combine sustainable housing, shared spaces, car share schemes, community solar projects, and productive gardens. We are unique in that we build community before we build the buildings. We run an intentional community building process with people interested in living in co-housing. This process starts before we even have a site in mind. So we're really building those connections between people and making people feel part of something larger than themselves. Because strong communities do something remarkable. They reduce pressure on social systems before crisis occurs. They reduce isolation, they create resilience, they improve well-being, and they help people feel at home again. Our ambition is not just to deliver projects, it is to help inspire a cultural shift in how we live together. We believe the future of housing must be socially regenerative, environmentally regenerative, and deeply human. And we believe capital can play a profound role in helping create that future. After building a 34-home, $26 million development in Golden Bay, we're now building communities in Wellington, Christchurch, and Nelson and beyond. We have our next project confirmed. Last month, we had an offer accepted on land in Paparangi near Newlands in Wellington, and we're looking for aligned investors to come on this journey with us. And I will drop some information in the chat about the impact that we are creating. So thank you for this opportunity to share our story.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Simone. And if people do want to hear your journey, they should listen to that Seeds episode because I've done 484 and I really enjoyed our conversation. So we'll try to find it and put it in the chat so people can find. Simone, just maybe a question for me because I've seen the development in Takaka, and just the thing that struck me from the pictures was that it's very intentional. For example, there's no car parks right next to the houses. You're forcing people to park here, walk in so that they're touching base with their neighbors. You're meeting people. It's a real focus, isn't it? Like, how do we build community? And I like that. And that's all intentional, right?
Yes, totally. One of the main points for co-housing is you keep the cars to the outside. It creates a beautiful park-like environment, but it also means there's about 30 seconds walk from your house to your car, which means you guaranteedly see 2 or 3 of your neighbors. These are not neighbors you don't know. These are neighbors that you have community meals with once a week, that you tend the garden together, that these are, essentially part of a large family of people that will care and look after you when you have need and also celebrate with you when you have awesome things to celebrate. So it's a beautiful way to live.
It's great. Well, again, in the comments, we'll put a link. Please go have a look at the photos and you'll see, just love what you're doing. So let's give a little virtual clap to all of our presenters there. Those were all nominated online, and I think that we got a very good, diverse mix of people. There you go. There's lots of claps there. It was amazing to hear such different perspectives. But underlying what everybody's doing, I get the sense that people are driven by purpose, wanting to make change in a positive, formative way for the future.